Top 25. Save your rice water. When Chinese people rinse their rice before cooking, they don't dump that cloudy, starchy water down the drain. They collect it in a bowl. That starchy rice water is incredibly useful. You can use it to thicken soups and sauces instead of buying cornstarch. You can pour it on your houseplants as a natural fertilizer because it contains potassium, phosphorus, and nitrogen. Some people even use it as a gentle face wash because the starch has mild skin softening properties. Just collect it in a container, keep it in the fridge for up to 3 days, and use it wherever you need a little body or liquid. Top 24. Turn leftover rice into congee. If you've got day-old rice sitting in the fridge, don't microwave it and eat it dry. Chinese households transform that leftover rice into congee, which is basically a rice porridge that can be a full meal. Take your leftover rice, add roughly 4 to 6 parts water or broth, and simmer it on low heat for about 20 to 30 minutes, stirring occasionally. The rice breaks down and absorbs the liquid, creating a creamy, comforting base. Top it with a soft-boiled egg, some sliced green onions, a drizzle of sesame oil, and a dash of soy sauce. What was a sad pile of cold rice becomes a restaurant-worthy breakfast or dinner. Top 23. Turn stale bread into a thickener. Now wait. This one is specifically adapted from a cross-cultural observation. Chinese cooking uses starch slurries constantly to thicken sauces. But when you have stale bread sitting around, you can blend it into fine crumbs and use it as a thickening agent for soups or to bind fillings for dumplings or meatballs. In Chinese home kitchens, nothing with starch gets thrown away because starch equals substance equals a full belly. Blend the stale bread, dry it in a low oven for 10 minutes, and store it in a jar. Use a tablespoon or two wherever you need body in a dish. Top 22. Revive wilting vegetables with ice water. Chinese cooks know that wilting doesn't mean dead. If your bok choy, spinach, lettuce, or any leafy green is starting to droop and look sad, fill a large bowl with ice-cold water and submerge the vegetables completely. Leave them for 15 to 20 minutes. The cells in the plant reabsorb water through osmosis, and the leaves become crisp and vibrant again. Pat them dry before cooking or eating. This works especially well with Chinese greens like gailan and bok choy, but also applies to romaine lettuce, celery, and even herbs. You're essentially buying yourself 2 to 3 extra days from vegetables you were about to throw out. Top 21. Make scallion oil from withered scallions. When your scallions are too far gone to revive with the ice water trick, Chinese people don't trash them. They make scallion oil, chop the scallions roughly, even the yellow wilted parts, and add them to a cold pan with a generous amount of neutral oil like vegetable or canola oil. Heat everything together slowly on low to medium heat for about 10 to 15 minutes until the scallions turn golden and slightly crispy. Strain out the scallion pieces and you're left with deeply fragrant, intensely flavored oil. Store it in a jar in the fridge for up to 2 weeks. Use it to dress noodles, drizzle over rice, or add to stir fries for extraordinary depth of flavor. Top 20. Reuse cooking oil strategically. In many Chinese kitchens, cooking oil gets reused deliberately and carefully. After frying something like tofu, garlic, or ginger, that oil is packed with flavor. Let it cool completely, then strain it through a fine mesh strainer or cheesecloth into a clean jar. Label it with what you fried in it and the date, and refrigerate it. Garlic-infused oil is phenomenal in noodle dishes. Ginger-infused oil is perfect for marinades. You can safely reuse properly strained and stored cooking oil 2 to 3 times before it loses quality. This dramatically cuts your cooking oil expenses over time. Top 19. Transform leftover stir-fry into fried rice. This is perhaps the most well-known trick on this list, but most people don't do it correctly. The secret the Chinese have always known is that fried rice must be made with day-old rice. Fresh rice is too moist and turns mushy. Yesterday's cold rice is dried out in the refrigerator, so the grains stay separate and fry properly. Take your leftover stir-fry, chop everything into smaller pieces, push it to one side of a very hot wok or skillet, scramble 2 eggs on the empty side, then mix everything together with your cold rice, a splash of soy sauce, and that leftover scallion oil from hack number 21. Every meal becomes the base for the next one. Top 18. Use vegetable scraps to make stock. Chinese cooks collect vegetable scraps throughout the week in a bag in the freezer. Corn cobs, the tough outer leaves of cabbage, carrot peels, mushroom stems, ginger peels, onion skins, celery ends, all of it goes in. When the bag is full, dump everything into a large pot, cover with water, add a few peppercorns and a bay leaf if you have one, and simmer for 45 minutes to an hour. Strain it, and you have a rich, flavorful vegetable stock that would cost you $4 a carton at the grocery store. Freeze it in ice cube trays for convenient single-serving portions. You can drop into soups, sauces, and grains anytime. Top 17. Pickle vegetables before they go bad. Chinese pickled vegetables, known as pao kai, are made specifically to rescue vegetables that are approaching the end of their life. Thinly sliced cucumbers, carrots, radishes, cabbage, or celery. Make a quick brine with white rice vinegar, a little sugar, salt, and optionally some chili flakes and garlic. Pour the hot brine over the vegetables in a clean jar. Let them cool, seal, and refrigerate for at least 4 hours. These pickled vegetables last 2 to 3 weeks in the fridge and become a tangy, crunchy side dish that makes any plain rice or noodle meal exciting. You've just saved food that was hours away from the trash. Top 16. Repurpose leftover dumpling filling. When Chinese families make dumplings at home, they almost always have leftover filling because it's nearly impossible to judge quantities perfectly. That filling, typically a mixture of ground pork, cabbage, ginger, and soy sauce, is too good to waste. Instead of stuffing it into more wrappers, fry it in a hot pan with a little oil, breaking it up as you go until it's cooked through. Toss it with noodles or rice, add a soft egg on top, and you have a completely different but equally satisfying meal. The dumpling filling that was going to sit awkwardly in your fridge is now dinner. Top 15. Steep used tea leaves a second and third time. Chinese tea culture has always emphasized multiple steepings. A quality loose leaf oolong, green tea, or pu'er tea can be steeped 3 to 5 times, and each steeping releases different flavor compounds. The first steep is robust, the second is often considered the sweetest and most nuanced, and later steepings become lighter and more delicate. Never throw out your loose leaf tea after the first cup. Keep the leaves in your teapot or a small bowl and steep again within a few hours. You're essentially getting multiple cups of tea for the price of one. Over a year, if you drink tea daily, this habit saves a meaningful amount. Top 14. Use citrus peels as a cleaning and deodorizing agent. Chinese people have used dried citrus peels for centuries, both in cooking and around the house. Instead of throwing away orange, tangerine, or mandarin orange peels, dry them out on your counter or in a low oven at around 200 degrees Fahrenheit for about an hour. Once dried, you can place them in your refrigerator to absorb odors the same way baking soda does. You can drop a piece into a pot of boiling water to steam clean and deodorize your kitchen. You can even add dried orange peel to certain stews and braces for a subtle citrus aroma. One piece of fruit, multiple uses. Top 13. Make soy sauce eggs with leftover marinade. After you've made soy sauce eggs, which are hard or medium boiled eggs soaked in a mixture of soy sauce, water, sugar, star anise, and cinnamon, Chinese households don't throw away that flavorful braising liquid. They store it in the fridge and reuse it. Each time you use it, the marinade deepens in flavor, becoming richer and more complex. This is called a master sauce in Chinese cooking, and some families have kept versions of it going for years. Just refreshing it with a little extra soy sauce and water is needed. Start yours today, and within a month, you'll have a flavor base that makes your eggs taste like they came from a specialty restaurant. Top 12. Freeze leftover coconut milk and broth in ice cube trays. This one sounds small but adds up significantly. Chinese and many other Asian recipes frequently call for specific amounts of coconut milk or broth, and almost never a full can or carton. Instead of letting the rest spoil in the fridge, pour leftover coconut milk or broth into ice cube trays and freeze. Once solid, pop them into a labeled freezer bag. Each cube is roughly 2 tablespoons. The next time a recipe calls for a quarter cup of coconut milk, you grab 2 cubes. No waste, no buying extra, no forgotten open cans growing mold in the back of your refrigerator. Top 11. Revive leftover rice that is dried out. Sometimes leftover rice goes from manageable to completely dried and crunchy overnight. Chinese cooks have a simple fix. Place the dried rice in a pot or rice cooker. Add 1 tablespoon of water per cup of rice, no more. Place a damp paper towel or a piece of clean damp cloth directly on top of the rice before closing the lid. Heat on low for about 10 minutes. The steam trapped under the cloth rehydrates the rice from the top down, while the bottom warms from the heat, restoring a texture that's remarkably close to freshly cooked. This works in a microwave too. Cover the bowl with a damp paper towel and heat in 30-second bursts. Top 10. Turn leftover chicken bones into tonkatsu-style broth. When Chinese families finish eating whole roasted or poached chicken, the carcass never goes in the trash. They crack the bones, add them to a pot with ginger, scallion, and enough water to cover by a few inches, and simmer everything on a low boil for 2 to 3 hours. The marrow and collagen from the cracked bones create an incredibly rich, milky white broth. Use this as the base for noodle soups, hot pot, or just sip it on its own. One chicken gives you 2 meals, the meat and then the broth. Americans routinely throw away what Chinese households consider the best part. Top 9. Make chili oil from seeds and stems. If you use fresh chilies regularly, you likely discard the seeds and the fibrous inner membranes because they're too spicy to eat directly. Chinese cooks dry these out on a paper towel for a day or two, then add them to hot oil along with garlic and a pinch of Sichuan peppercorns if available. Heat slowly, strain, and you have a custom chili oil for pennies. Store it in a glass jar at room temperature for up to a month. This chili oil elevates dumplings, noodles, eggs, and even pizza. You're extracting maximum value from parts of the vegetable most people treat as garbage. Top 8. Repurpose. Leftover stir-fry sauce as a noodle dressing. When you finish stir-frying in a wok or pan, there's always a small amount of sauce left clinging to the sides and bottom. Don't wash it off immediately. Pour in a ladle of hot noodle cooking water and swirl it around to deglaze. That concentrated pan sauce dissolves into the pasta water, creating an instant, deeply flavored noodle dressing. Toss your freshly cooked noodles directly in the pan with this liquid, and you have a side dish or light meal with essentially zero additional effort or cost. This technique captures flavor that most American cooks send down the drain with the dishwater. Top 7. Use watermelon rind in stir fries. This one genuinely surprises most Americans. Chinese people eat the white part of watermelon rind, the pale green to white layer between the outer skin and the red flesh. Peel off the tough dark green outer layer using a vegetable peeler, then cut the white rind into thin strips or cubes. It has like a mild, slightly sweet flavor and a crunchy texture similar to cucumber. Stir fry it quickly with garlic, a little salt, and a splash of rice vinegar, or pickle it using the method from hack number 17. In China, this is a common summer vegetable. In America, people throw away pounds of perfectly edible food every time they eat watermelon. Top 6. Reuse ginger in multiple rounds. Ginger is one of the most important aromatics in Chinese cooking, but it's also one that Americans overbuy and underuse, resulting in dried out or moldy knobs being thrown away regularly. Chinese households freeze their ginger whole, unpeeled, in a Ziploc bag. Frozen ginger is actually easier to grate than fresh ginger because the cell structure breaks down, allowing the fibers to grate smoothly without stringiness. You can grate it directly from frozen without even thawing. It lasts up to 3 months in the freezer with no loss in flavor or potency. One knob of ginger becomes a 3-month supply instead of a 1-week supply. Top 5. Make tofu skin from heated soy milk. If you make or buy fresh soy milk at home, Chinese people know that when you heat soy milk gently without boiling, a thin protein-rich film forms on the surface. This is tofu skin called yuba in Japanese and fuju in Chinese, and it's a prized ingredient. Carefully lift that film with a chopstick or skewer and lay it on a plate. Let it dry slightly, and you can roll it, fry it, braise it, or add it to soups. It's packed with protein. What was just the natural byproduct of heating your morning soy milk becomes an entirely separate ingredient that would cost several dollars at an Asian grocery store. Top 4. Salt preserved vegetables for months of shelf life. Long before refrigeration, Chinese households preserve seasonal vegetables by packing them in salt. This method works incredibly well and requires almost nothing. Take Napa cabbage, mustard greens, or even green beans. Toss them generously with non-iodized salt, about 1 tablespoon per pound of vegetables. Pack them tightly into a clean glass jar, pressing down firmly so the salt draws out moisture and creates a natural brine that covers the vegetables. Seal and leave at room temperature for 2 to 3 days, then refrigerate. These salt-preserved vegetables keep for months and add a savory, funky depth to stir-fries, soups, and rice congee that no fresh vegetable can replicate. Top 3. Save and reuse brining and braising liquids. In Chinese cooking, certain liquids are considered too valuable to discard after a single use. After braising pork belly or making braised soy sauce chicken, the leftover liquid is cooled, skimmed of fat, and stored in the freezer. The next time you cook, you start your braise with this existing liquid, adding fresh aromatics and a little extra soy sauce and sugar. The depth of flavor that builds over successive uses is genuinely extraordinary. This is one of the core reasons Chinese restaurant food tastes different from home cooking to most Americans. The answer isn't a secret spice, it's accumulated flavor from liquid used over and over again. Top 2. Turn leftover cooking water into tomorrow's soup. This is something Chinese people do so automatically. They don't even think of it as a hack. The water used to blanch vegetables, boil noodles, or cook dumplings is loaded with dissolved starches, vitamins, and flavor. Never pour it down the drain without tasting it first. Vegetable blanching water with a pinch of salt and some white pepper is already a simple light broth. Noodle water thickens any sauce you add it to. Dumpling boiling water has a weedy, savory quality. Chinese grandmothers have told their grandchildren for generations that the cooking water feeds you twice if you let it. Americans spend money on fancy broths and stocks while pouring free, flavorful liquid down the drain every single night. Top 1. The whole chicken method. Chinese people approach buying a whole chicken completely differently than most Americans. A whole chicken gets broken down at home into parts, but nothing is treated as inferior or wasteful. The carcass and neck get turned into broth immediately. The skin gets rendered for chicken fat to cook with. The meat gets used across multiple meals, not just one, stretched across fried rice, noodle soup, and stir fries throughout the week. The organs, if included, get stir fried separately as a quick meal. One whole chicken, which typically costs less per pound than buying parts separately, effectively becomes 4 or 5 separate meals for a family. This single habit, practiced consistently every week by Chinese households, is arguably responsible for more food savings than any other technique on this list. And now for the bonus tip, the one that ties everything together. Chinese people think about the kitchen as a closed-loop system. Nothing enters without eventually being used completely. The American habit of buying food, using the best and most obvious parts, and discarding everything else, is a relatively modern and frankly expensive approach. What makes the Chinese approach so effective is not any single technique, but a mindset shift. Before anything goes in the trash, the question gets asked, what else can this become? Here's how to implement the full system starting today. Keep 3 things in your kitchen that Chinese households always have: a freezer scrap bag for vegetable and bone scraps, a glass jar for strained cooking oil, and a jar with a tight lid for quick pickles. Every Sunday, take 10 minutes to process your scraps into broth. Check what vegetables need to be used immediately and plan your meals around using leftovers first, rather than buying new ingredients first. Chinese people do not meal plan in the Western sense. They look at what remains and build from there. This reverse approach to cooking eliminates the waste that happens when you buy ingredients for a specific recipe and then the leftover half cabbage or 2 tablespoons of tomato paste sit unused until they spoil. The average American household throws away roughly 30 to 40% of the food they purchase. Chinese households using these techniques systematically reduce that number dramatically. If your household food budget is $800 a month and you reduce waste by just 25%, that is $200 back in your pocket every single month, which is $2,400 a year. That is a vacation. That is a car payment. That is real money, and it comes not from spending less at the grocery store, but from using more of what you already bought. If you found value in even 3 or 4 of these techniques, make sure you subscribe, because we break down practical money-saving and cooking strategies every week. Drop a comment below telling me which one of these 25 tricks you had absolutely no idea about before watching this video. I read every single comment. And if you have a Chinese grandparent, parent, or friend who has been trying to teach you these tricks for years, maybe now is the time to finally listen to them. If these ancient kitchen secrets change the way you look at your food scraps, please subscribe and like the video. We are uncovering the practical history that modern convenience has tried to bury. Start your own closed-loop kitchen today. The next treasure trove of wisdom will be revealed very soon.